Good evening, my friends. Tonight I'm going to show you how to stay in your assumption 24/7, not just during your visualization practice, not just when you're feeling inspired, not just when things are going well. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, around the clock, without exception. This is the secret that separates those who manifest their desires from those who simply dream about them. Because here's what most people don't understand. You can't manifest from an assumption you only occupy part-time. If you assume wealth for 1 hour and poverty for 23, you're living in poverty. That's what manifests. If you assume love before bed and loneliness all day, you're living in loneliness. That's what appears. You must learn to occupy your desired state continuously, constantly, permanently, as naturally as breathing, as automatically as your heartbeat. Tonight you're going to learn exactly how to do that. Let me start by explaining why your manifestations haven't appeared even though you're doing the work. You imagine your desire fulfilled every night. You fall asleep in the wish fulfilled. You visualize, you affirm. You do everything you've been taught, but nothing changes. Why? Because for the 23 waking hours of your day, you're completely abandoning your assumption. You wake up and check your bank account, poverty consciousness. You go to work and complain about money, lack assumption. You talk to your friends about your problems, victim state. You worry about bills, fear and limitation. You react to circumstances, old identity. And then you wonder why that 1 hour of visualization at night isn't working. It's not working because manifestation doesn't happen from what you do for 1 hour. It happens from the state you live in most consistently. Your consciousness is always creating, always, every moment. You're always assuming something. The question is, are you assuming your desire fulfilled or your current circumstances? Most people assume their current circumstances 95% of the time and their desire fulfilled 5% of the time. And then they're shocked when the 95% is what manifests. To manifest your desire, you must flip this. You must assume your desire fulfilled 24/7. During the day, during the night, while working, while resting, while talking, while thinking, continuously without break. First, you must understand that right now, you have a default state. This is the state your consciousness automatically returns to when you're not paying attention. For most people, the default state is their current circumstances, their current identity, their familiar patterns. When they stop consciously focusing on their desire, they unconsciously slip back to this default. And because most of your day is spent not consciously focusing on your desire, you spend most of your day in your old state. This is why your manifestation doesn't appear. So the real work, is not just creating a new state during your visualization. It's making that new state your default, making it so automatic, so natural, so deeply embedded in your consciousness that you don't have to remember to occupy it. You just do. Continuously, 24/7. Your day begins the moment you open your eyes. And what most people do in those first moments determines their entire day. They check the news, immediately engaging with external reality. They start thinking about their problems, immediately occupying the old state. And within 5 minutes of waking, they've completely abandoned their assumption and returned to their default state. This is the first place you lose your 24/7 assumption. So here's what you must do instead. The moment you wake, before you move, before you check anything, before you engage with the world, you must consciously occupy your desired state, not visualize it, not think about it. Be in it. Lie there for just 60 seconds. Feel yourself as the person who already has what you desire. Let that identity settle over you. Let it become real. And then as you get out of bed, carry that feeling with you. You're not getting out of bed to start working toward your desire. You're getting out of bed as someone who already has it. This is how you set your operating system for the day. This is how you make your assumption your default instead of your old state. Do this every single morning without exception. This is non-negotiable. Now, as you move through your day, there's one thing that's happening constantly. Whether you're aware of it or not, you're in a conversation. Right now, there's a voice in your head. It comments, it judges, it plans, it worries, it remembers, it never stops. And this voice, This constant internal dialogue is either maintaining your assumption or destroying it. Most people's inner conversation sounds like this: I can't afford that. Why does this always happen to me? I'm so tired of being alone. Nothing ever works out. I don't have enough. Nobody appreciates me. Every single one of these statements is an assumption, and every time you think them, you're reinforcing the old state. You might visualize wealth for an hour at night, but if you spend all day thinking, I don't have enough, which state are you really occupying? To stay in your assumption 24/7, you must completely transform your inner conversation. It must become the voice of someone who already has what they desire. When you see something you want, you don't think, I can't afford that. You think, I could get that if I wanted. When you face a challenge, you don't think, why me? You think, this is working out perfectly. When you're alone, you don't think, I'm so lonely. You think, I'm so loved. This isn't forced positive thinking. This is thinking from your desired state instead of your current circumstances. And you must do this continuously. All day, every thought, every internal statement. The moment you catch yourself thinking from the old state, you redirect to the new one. Immediately, without judgment, just redirect. At first, this requires constant vigilance. You'll redirect hundreds of times a day. But if you persist, if you keep choosing thoughts from your desired state instead of your current circumstances, something remarkable happens. The new inner conversation becomes automatic, your default, your natural way of thinking. And when your inner conversation changes permanently, your outer reality must change to match it. Now, you can't consciously monitor every thought, every second. That would be exhausting. So let me give you a practical system for staying in your assumption throughout your waking hours. Set an alarm clock every 2 hours. When it goes off, pause for 10 seconds and ask yourself one question. What state am I in right now? Not what am I doing, not how do I feel, but what state am I in? Am I thinking from my desire fulfilled or from my current circumstances? If you've drifted, and you will drift, simply return to your assumption. 10 seconds. That's all. Feel yourself as the person who has your desire. Adjust your inner conversation. Reset your state. Then continue with your day. Do this every 2 hours, every single day. And here's what happens. You start catching yourself drifting even without the reminder. Your consciousness becomes self-aware, self-correcting. By the second week, you might only drift a few times a day, instead of constantly. By the fourth week, your assumption becomes so natural that you rarely drift at all. You're not trying to stay in it anymore. You just are in it, 24/7. Now here's where most people completely lose their assumption. Something happens that contradicts their desire. A bill arrives, their bank balance is low, they don't get the call they were expecting. Someone criticizes them, they see their ex with someone else. And in that moment, in that instant of seeing contradictory evidence, they completely abandon their assumption and react from the old state. Panic, fear, doubt, anger, disappointment. And with that reaction, they've exited their desired state and entered the old one. This is why staying in assumption 24/7 is so difficult, because reality will constantly show you evidence that contradicts your assumption, and your natural tendency is to react to that evidence. But you must learn to remain in your state regardless of evidence. Here's how. When something happens that would normally trigger you, pause before reacting. Take one conscious breath and remind yourself, this is old data, this is yesterday's state being reflected back to me. This is not my current reality in consciousness. Then consciously choose to remain in your assumption. You see the low bank balance, but you remain in wealth consciousness. You think, I am abundant. This is temporary. My assumption is what's real. You don't get the call, but you remain in success consciousness. You think everything is unfolding perfectly. My desire is coming in the right timing. Someone hurts you, but you remain in love consciousness. You think, I am so loved. This person's actions don't define my reality. This is the practice. This is how you stay in assumption despite contradictory evidence. Not by denying what you see, but by refusing to let what you see determine what you assume. You see it, you acknowledge it, but you remain in your desired state anyway. And each time you do this successfully, each time you choose your assumption over your circumstances, you strengthen the new state and weaken the old one. As your day ends, you have one more crucial opportunity to reinforce your 24/7 assumption. Before you fall asleep, review your day, not to judge yourself, not to feel guilty about drifting, but to learn and reinforce. Ask yourself, when did I successfully maintain my assumption today? When did I drift, and what triggered it? How did I handle challenges from my old state or my new one? What will I do better tomorrow? Acknowledge your wins. Every time you caught yourself drifting and return to your assumption, that's a win. Recognize it, celebrate it. And then do your state akin to sleep practice. Imagine your desire fulfilled. Engage all your senses. Make it vivid and real, and fall asleep in that feeling. This nightly practice doesn't replace staying in assumption all day. It reinforces it. You're bookending your day with your desired state, morning and evening, and maintaining it throughout the hours in between. Now, here's something most people don't realize. You can stay in your assumption even while you sleep. Your subconscious mind never stops working. It's always processing, always creating, always manifesting based on whatever you've impressed upon it. When you fall asleep in the state of the wish fulfilled, you're programming your subconscious to work on your behalf all night long. While your conscious mind rests, your subconscious continues creating, arranging, orchestrating circumstances that match your assumption. This is why the state you fall asleep in is so important. It's the state your subconscious works from for the next 8 hours. If you fall asleep worrying about money, your subconscious spends the night creating more lack. If you fall asleep feeling lonely, your subconscious reinforces separation. But if you fall asleep feeling wealthy, loved, successful, whatever your desire is, your subconscious spends the night manifesting that reality. So even sleep becomes part of your 24/7 assumption. You're not taking a break from your desired state. You're letting your subconscious deepen it while you rest. Now let me share something that will transform how you understand staying in assumption 24/7. Eventually, this isn't about technique anymore. It becomes about identity. At first, you have to consciously remember to stay in your assumption. You have to deliberately choose your thoughts. You have to intentionally redirect when you drift. This is the practice phase. This is necessary. But as you persist, as you spend more and more time in your desired state, something shifts. You stop being someone who's trying to assume wealth. You become someone who is wealthy. You stop being someone who's practicing being loved. You become someone who simply is loved. The assumption stops being something you do and becomes someone you are. And when this identity shift happens, staying in assumption 24/7 becomes effortless. Because you're not trying to maintain a state anymore. You're just being yourself. And yourself is someone who already has what you desired. This is the ultimate goal of 24/7 assumption. Not to perfectly maintain a practice forever, but to become someone for whom the desired state is natural, automatic, permanent. So let me give you a challenge. A 7-day intensive practice for staying in assumption 24/7. For 7 days straight, you're going to commit completely to living in your assumed state around the clock. Every morning, wake up and immediately occupy your desired state before doing anything else. Every 2 hours, check your state. If you've drifted, return immediately. Monitor your inner conversation. When you catch yourself thinking from the old state, redirect to the new one. When evidence contradicts your assumption, consciously choose to remain in your desired state anyway. Every evening, review your day, acknowledge your wins, do your state akin to sleep practice. Every night, fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. 7 days, complete commitment. No exceptions. No days off. And I promise you, by day 7, staying in your assumption will feel completely different than it did on day 1. It won't be as hard. It won't require as much effort. It will start feeling natural. And if you continue for another 7 days and another, it becomes your default state, your permanent identity, your 24/7 reality. Let me close with this truth. Staying in assumption 24/7 is not about perfection. You will drift, everyone drifts. But staying in assumption 24/7 is about persistence. It's about returning to your desired state every single time you drift, as many times as necessary, without judgment, without giving up, continuously, faithfully, until the new state becomes permanent. Most people try to stay in their assumption for a few days, drift a few times, get discouraged, and quit. But true mastery comes from persisting even when you drift, especially when you drift. Because every time you catch yourself in the old state and consciously return to the new one, you're reprogramming your consciousness. You're weakening the old pattern and strengthening the new one. And eventually, inevitably, the new pattern becomes stronger than the old one. The new state becomes more familiar than the old one. The new identity becomes more real than the old one. And at that point, you're no longer trying to stay in assumption 24/7. You're just living in it, naturally, automatically, permanently. Tonight, make the decision not to try staying in assumption 24/7, not to hope you can do it, but to commit to doing it. Starting tomorrow morning, you're going to occupy your desired state the moment you wake up and maintain it throughout every waking hour. You're going to monitor your inner conversation and redirect every thought that comes from the old state. You're going to remain in your assumption even when evidence contradicts it. You're going to fall asleep in the wish fulfilled every single night. And you're going to do this consistently, persistently, faithfully, until it becomes your natural way of being. This is how you manifest your desires. Not by doing a technique for a few minutes a day, but by living in the state of your wish fulfilled 24/7 until that state becomes who you are. Thank you and good evening. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video.